Good morning. This is Jason Dean at Film Fanatic headquarters coming live at you. I hope everyone's doing good. It is about 10:37 on a Wednesday. Pretty beautiful summer day. Or getting very close to summer technically. So hope everyone's doing good. The There was a long gap between some of my shows. There kind of has been, just mainly due to schedule stuff, but I'm still cranking them out. I just recently made two big hauls, or two big purchases of films. Uh, Both pretty successful outings as usual. Opera House Video, my favorite video shop, they do these big sales usually, probably like twice a year, where they have these street sales, a big street sale, and they sell off a whole bunch of their inventory, and it's pretty amazing. And I went there this past Saturday. Didn't have as much time as I wanted to buy. Usually, I buy um, well an insane amount of movies. This time, I didn't have all that much time in the morning because I had this gig that I had, but it was on one of the islands. It was on Islesboro, which is close to here. So I had to, from there I had to catch the ferry to take it over to the island. So I didn't have all that much time, and it was in the morning. But I still went. I made myself go. I almost didn't make it because of the time frame, but I made myself go. And I was super psyched, and I got some killer movies. For the most part, I I try to always buy Blu-rays. I like most collectors out there. I have officially kind of run out of room, so I'm gonna have to get some new shelving situation going pretty soon here. But hey, it's worth it. I got some really great movies, and then also on Sunday I was up in Bangor, and I stopped in. We all went. I had this recording session, and all of us all went to Bull Moose afterwards, which of course my favorite place on earth, and that was pretty sweet. I got some really great movies up there, so I got a whole stack of movies again. I have definitely been buying. Usually in the past, last couple of years or so, when I go to buy movies, I typically always space it out a little bit more, where I go every few months. But I have been going more often, especially well, this winter I really bought a ton of movies, and so I had been going more often to a couple other shops as well as my main place, Bull Moose. So I have had kind of an explosion as far as newer movies. I try to mostly buy Blu-rays, but I do buy DVDs still. Especially if they're really good editions or good quality. You know, but Blu-rays are my main focus. But one one DVD, I bought this, and it was wicked cheap. I mean, virtually for free. I did buy some DVDs at the big sale at Opera House Video this past Saturday. And one movie that I absolutely love, I think it's a masterpiece, and I bought this really beautiful edition of There Will Be Blood, starring the one and only Daniel Day-Lewis, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and also starring Dan. Oh, totally forgot his name. Paul, and also starring Paul Dano, the great Paul Dano, and of course Daniel Day Lewis, who really needs absolutely no introduction. Paul Dano, I believe that this was his first film that well, at least that I had seen him in. This movie came out in 2007, which is unbelievable how old this movie is now. But I picked up this beautiful DVD collection of this movie, and I have never seen it on Blu-ray. I do not own it on Blu-ray. I have, I do have, I do believe I have another DVD copy of this movie. But this is pretty exquisite. I watched this. I've been watching it, kind of halfway done with it. I started watching it last night, and this movie is a masterpiece. I think this movie is such I don't know, it's such a journey into like a man's personal hell. It's such a dark movie. It's I love because it's such an original world that you're taken into. I love that it has a lot of social commentary, but it's never heavy-handed. Paul Thomas Anderson's amazing, an amazing director. Boogie Nights, Punch Drunk Love, The Master, so many great films. For my money, I have to say, I think There Will Be Blood is my favorite film of his. I I have seen this movie so many times. I saw this in the theater with my friend Sean Russell when this came out. We went to this beautiful theater in I think it was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We went to this really amazing theater and we went into it cold. We knew it looked like a pretty dark film. I didn't know anything about it otherwise. We both really loved Paul Thomas Anderson. We really loved his work. And so we went into it totally cold. And I remember after the film was over and concluded, we were both kind of speechless. We walked out into the parking lot and we were just like, um, kind of speechless. Like I remember we talked about it after we got home because I was staying at his place that for a couple of days. I was up visiting him, and oh my god, this movie is so devastating and so it's kind of I don't know. It's such a dark and horrific film, um, but it's beautifully shot. This film also marked kind of the first venture into film scoring by Johnny Greenwood. Of course, the guitar player for the iconic rock band Radiohead. I have the soundtrack for this film also. This movie is all about aesthetics, and I feel like you really get transported into this universe and this world of Daniel Daniel Day Lewis's character. You really are brought into the world, the dangerous world of becoming this oil tycoon, and he plays this character Daniel Roundtree, and it is just a brutal movie. It's darkly disturbing. The cinematography is just amazing. This won best actor for Daniel Day Lewis in 2007, and rightfully so. You know, he recently retired, or the last couple of years, he retired from acting. He did another film, his last film that he did with Paul Thomas Anderson, which is also another fantastic movie, Phantom Thread. Completely different, but a very powerful experience in its own right. But this movie is such a great, portrayal of greed. It's kind of a critique on capitalism, but then also what what it can what someone has to do in this world of the jungle and trying to survive. And it shows that men at the end of the day are just a bunch of animals, and what they will do, risking everything, you know, personal tragedy in order to acquire the keys to the kingdom. And but this movie is just amazing. Paul Dano, I remember when I first saw this, plays this church pastor who owns his own church, and the conflict that arises between the two characters. And it is just gut wrenching. The ending for this film is so jaw dropping. I don't know how else to describe it, but it really is one of those films that is it does have a lot of heavy social commentary in it, but it's never heavy handed. And I think this movie is such a great character study. Daniel Day Lewis's character in this film is so complex. The relationship with his son, what he will is willing to do in order to kind of further his goals, to further his his the end game for what his ultimate objective is, and to be able and what he's able and what he's willing to do to once he's built this kingdom, what he's willing to do to maintain it. It's astounding. It's such a haunting film. It's very poetic. I've seen this movie countless times. I've never seen it on Blu-ray. Unfortunately, I don't own it on Blu-ray. But this edition is pretty spectacular. I had to buy it. I originally, when I looked at it, I thought it was a DVD. I thought it was a Blu-ray, but it's not. But I love this packaging. It's just beautiful, and I I've pretty much finished it, or I should say I'm like halfway in the middle. I typically, whenever I do these shows, I typically watch the movie, even if I've seen it many numerous times. Typically, what I do is I'll watch the movie and then do a show right after. But I have seen this movie so many times, and I'm so eager to I was just so eager to talk about it regardless. But an amazing film. I think this is one of those movies that does get better with time and age. I Every time I've seen this movie, I find myself getting something different from it, and where I also um, just enjoy it more and more. I mean, it's such a dark journey, but it's brilliant. It's an epic film. It is pretty lengthy. It's close to 3 hours, but I feel like this movie does not drag at all. It's kind of a slow burn, but it's one of those films that is a slow burn, but you're getting so much information along the way that regardless of the pacing, it doesn't matter because the direction is so exquisite. The acting is so incredible. The script is so great. The cinematography is so powerful in this movie that I feel like it truly acts as its own character. And it's one of those movies I put in and I'm just like gripped to my seat. I can't get out. I have to watch it, and it's such a masterpiece. And it might be the best performance I think by Daniel Day Lewis in his long and incredible career. It's Dan Swano. Um, it's gone on to it's it's gone on to be a film that really introduced me to him. Um, it really um, it just blew me away when I'm sorry, Dan Paul Dano. When I it really made me focus on him as an actor and his career. Since then, his career as an actor has exploded, and he's been in so many fantastic films. The most recent movie that he was in was the Robert Patterson Batman, where he plays the Riddler, and he's just incredible in that movie. But since seeing this movie, I was just like, wow, like this guy is just unbelievable. Another film he was in the last few years was the biopic about Brian Wilson from the Beatles, an amazing film. Um, and again, this movie has one of the most devastating and jaw-dropping endings I think ever that you will ever see in a film. And it's one of those movies too where I've talked about that where certain films will have, say overtly there will be this presentation of where it will be critique, social commentary on, and critique of like, whether it's societal issues that we face, whether it's domestic or foreign issues or political, social and economic issues. And and for the most part, lots of films that do go into those areas, I you know, I tend to feel naturally aligned with that critique. But I have talked a lot before that there's a fine line, even if when it becomes that scenario where you're kind of the preaching to the choir scenario. Even if I completely agree with, say, the political lens that that story is being told through, if I feel like I'm kind of being bombarded with that message or hit over the head, then I just check out. I want the movie. I think a movie can find that balance where you can get into some real thought provoking territory. You can really express some real interesting ideas, real progressive ideas, ideas that are even considered strange or unusual or way outside the box. Or even to a degree, things that are pretty maybe black and white for that particular, from that particular opinion. But it's the way it's told. It's the way it's weaved into the tapestry of the story. And I feel like a film can have that balance of where, at first, whatever the film is, whatever the regardless of the budget, or regardless of the style, of course the art of filmmaking is, is about escaping, as a viewer and as a fan of film, you want to escape the mundane for a few hours. And it's like picking up that good book, or looking at a beautiful painting, or putting on that classic album. You want to be transported. And so, that's the kind of the ultimate experience, as to why we gravitate towards art. But within that, you can explore all of these ideas, and there's sometimes that fine line of getting into some very, serious social commentary on things that we are living, through currently or in the past, where it can get in the way of that experience. But when you have something done so well, and I think that this is a primetime example of that, where it can be, to a degree, really tackling, say, like I think on one hand you could look at this movie as a real critique of capitalism, and greed, kind of this corporatist mentality that we have, the way the world, for that matter, and especially the United States, is run. Of, when you look at the model, or say the model of what, say, capitalism is, or the way, say, a corporation is run. If you look at it if you analyze it, of say, the under the personality traits, that it falls under the guise of someone who is completely psychotic. There is no compassion, and there is no empathy. Sociopathic tendencies, or is what the whole mechanism is initially about. And this film really, on one hand, does deal with that. I feel is like, but again, it's so delicately handled, and it's so well written, that I never feel that kind of that aspect of a movie gets in the way of the film, and I never feel like it's preachy, and it's just such an incredible film. I highly recommend it. It's hard to believe that this came out in 2007, but I think it's a masterpiece. One day I will definitely buy it on Blu-ray, but I'm really happy. I'm really excited that I bought this on DVD. It's such a masterpiece. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.